tell you a quick story. When I was at Oklahoma State, February of '49, my father came over and I was being initiated into a fraternity that SAE, which he was a member at Tennessee. And he was a great fraternity person, and he had his old pen, and he penned me with his old pen from 1922. This is '49. And it was a nice ceremony, of course. Everybody hugged each other. Now my dad was my brother. That's unusual. But and so we walked out on the lawn, and it got serious real quick. And he said, "Son, I'm getting ready to go home." And he said, "I want to talk to you about something. Your mother and I," when he starts that way, you know it's real, because she was a disciplinarian in the family. He said, "Your mother and I are concerned you're not on the same schedule to graduate that we have you on." And I kind of sort of nodded, "Yeah, I think you're right." But I didn't, I wasn't forced to answer at that point. And he said, "The first year you were in school, you were in veterinary medicine," and said that didn't work out. And he said, "Now you're over in the business school." And he said, "I don't think much of that." He said, "You need to either get in geology or engineering and get out of school in June of '51. And I said, "Okay, it's clear." And he said, "Son, let me tell you something. A fool with a plan can beat a genius with no plan. Your mother and I have a concern that we have a fool with no plan." That was right at the semester. A week later, I was enrolled in geology, and I had had 8 hours of geology. So I went to the dean that day, and I said, "Is there any way I can get out of here in June of '51? And he looked at it, and he said, "You can do it." He said, "You've one summer school, 2 18s and a 19, and you've got it." I said, "Well, sign me up, Doc." And I did it. I was out of there. And I now had a plan, is my point. We've gone 40 years in this country. We have no energy plan. Only country in the world that has no energy plan. And so we've got to come up with something different than where we are. Okay, let's say, okay, Boone, go forward 10 years from here. You've gone 40 years. You've given us a horror story there. Now, take us forward 10 years. We have no plan. Take us out 10 years. Where are we going to be? 2020. This is where you're going to be. You're going to be importing 75% of the oil, and you'll be paying $300, $400 a barrel. That's not sustainable. So, having said all that, I have given you the problem. I've tried to tell you a funny story in between. And now, to the solution is that we're over to House Bill 1380 will be the first step to an energy plan. That's not the total plan. The total plan's got to have everything in America. You're going to have to bring in renewables. Wind, will it work? Sure it'll work. Does it blow all the time? No, it doesn't blow all the time. Solar, the sun doesn't shine all the time, but it'll work. Those are forms of energy that we have to bring into a portfolio in this country, is where you are. Then, can you use biodiesel? Of course. You can use all these. Algae, will it work? Yes, they haven't perfected it to the point where you can get very much of it cheap or very expensive. But if we're put in the direction by the leadership in Washington that says we are going to get on our own energy in America, and we're all going to do it together. I tried to get the president in the State of the Union message to say in January that all vehicles purchased by administrative order, all vehicles purchased by the federal government will be on domestic fuel. I don't care what it is. I don't care whether it's a battery. I don't care whether it's natural gas, ethanol, biodiesel, anything. I don't care. All right, just so it's American. All right, then I got nowhere. Then I wanted him to come to the American people and say, "I promised you," and he did, at his nomination speech in Denver, July of 2008, he said, "In 10 years, we will not import any oil from the Mideast." He said that. He said it in the fourth debate. I had lunch with Bob Schieffer 2 days before the 4th debate. He said, what would you ask these candidates on energy? I said, ask them how long we're going to import oil from the enemy. He said, that's kind of raw. I don't know whether I can say enemy or not. Well, he asked the question right. He didn't use enemy, but he asked about imported oil. And Obama said exactly the same thing. He said that, that in 10 years we will not import any oil from the Mideast. Well, 3 years have passed and we've not seen any plan, none, zero. He hasn't mentioned it. He did in an energy speech a month ago. He mentioned natural gas and then said that legendary oil man Boone Pickens has put a lot of time and effort into something other than an energy plan for America. All true. I've spent $82 million out of my pocket to do this. And I'm not kidding you. That's a true story. And I'm not near as rich today as I was back in July of '08. And that's a true story too. And so but I've really, this is a mission for me, and I'm going to get it done. I'm going to get an energy plan, or the start of an energy plan for America. But we don't even understand energy in this country. I wanted Obama to come out and say to the American people, I promised you in July of '08 that we would be off Mideast oil in 10 years. This is my plan. The plan would be you, me, everybody in America would go, your next car that you buy would be on domestic fuel. The next car you buy, okay. With that, it has a motive in it, and that is this is where you educate your family on energy in America. I had 5 kids, and you know, we were around the table as they grew up and everything, and I always tried to have some topic of interest that we could all participate in and have an opinion on. This would have been a beautiful one. I would have told those 5 kids, I said, look, the president's asked us to get on domestic fuel. I think we should. We're all patriotic. I understand, and then I explained to them all about OPEC. And so then we would talk. And I would assign, Deborah, you have the plug-in hybrid. Pam, you have the ethanol. Mike, you have, and I'd assign a fuel to every one of them. And I'd tell them in 6 months, the family's going to decide what we're going to do. And so 6 months, we buy a car, and it would be on domestic fuel. I believe that education for my family, if that I'd been lucky enough today to have 5 kids around the table. They're all, now the oldest one's 61, the youngest one's 51. And so, boy, I cranked them out fast, didn't I? But there, they would have forever after, I think, my children, before they bought a car, they would think domestic fuel first. They would think. If you were able to put that in place, man, we would be on our way. We would be on our way to solving our problem. And I think the natural gas would be a part of the bridge to the future. What is the future? 20 or 30 years, you're going to be over probably to battery. You could be a fuel cell, whatever. But we're smart enough in this country that given the challenge, given the task, we can solve the problem. We can get on our own. We can take care of ourselves. It's insane to sit here and be dependent on oil from where we are dependent on. And if we have to have more oil, we don't do anything about our problem, there's only one place you're going to be able to get that oil. That's going to be from the Mideast. That's where it's going to come from. So you will just drift into deeper, deeper water, and you will be more and more dependent on the same unreliable source that you've been for the last 40 years. So together, all of us, help me, and this is the way I want you to help me. Sign up on PickensPlan.com. No money, just us. We'll be together. You will get an energy message from me every week. I will keep you up to date. You will be better informed than any group in America on what's going on with energy in our country. I want to do that with you, but I want you to respond. When I ask you to contact your congressman or your senator and tell them we need them to look at this or that, but to join with us and get an energy plan for America. I have 1,700,000 people signed up with me. 1,700,000. There's going to be a congressman today in Wichita, Kansas, that I'm confident he's going to have between 15 and 20,000 emails. He came out against 1380, and he wants free markets because he's wanted free markets since he was 15 years old. That's a long time, 15 years. I mean, 15 years to be wanting free markets. At 15, I didn't even know what free market was. If somebody asked me, I'd have flunked the question on it. But I'm a free market guy, but when I'm up against a market, if you think OPEC is a free market, you are badly, badly missing the point. OPEC is not a free market, and that is what we're having to deal with. So together, we can solve the problem. But this is going to have to be addressed, and it's got to be coming up fast. How fast? It'll happen this year. You're going to see this year demand in the fourth quarter for the world, 90 million barrels a day. I don't think we can produce any more than 88. If that is the case, there's certainly inventories that will be drawn down around the world. And I'm not talking about our strategic petroleum reserve in the Gulf Coast. That's 750 million barrels. I'm not talking about drawing that down. I'm just talking about inventories that are in the industry everywhere, you know, in tankers or in storage tanks or whatever else. You'll start to pull those down in the fourth quarter of this year. And the only way you can kill demand if supply is capped is with price. So you're going to see the price of oil go up here this year, that it could very well shock all of us. Now, if you have an economy that slows down, then you can also see demand slow down. But as long as you have a growing economy and supply is capped, demand's growing, the only way you can control demand is with price. So get ready, say Boone told me, or that this time next year, who was that bird? It was here in Dalton and told us that oil prices were going to go up. They went down. He didn't know what he was talking about. So, okay, I don't mind sticking my neck out. So my neck stuck out. You will remember me because you will see oil prices go up.